Hey there. Yes, we are live, lady. All right, you guys are going to be with us. This amazing coach. Do you want to introduce yourself just before we get
Yeah,
started?
sure. My name is Carlin, and I serve specifically busy women, busy moms who want to just make a change in their lives with weight loss, fitness, kicking the sugar addiction, those types of things.
So the reason that I said, girl, we have to get on a video and do this is many of you have questions about how do you deliver materials? What is the best format? Is it good to drip the materials? Should it be evergreen? Um, and most importantly, what gives our client the most successful win? One of my favorite mentors out there, and somebody, if you are interested in any what we call course format, program, program structure, like how long are my videos? One of my great friends, Jenna Sword, who studied under James Wedmore, always says, you want your courses to be step by step so that your ideal client gets a win. Because when they have that win, when they have success, they will have the confidence and they will be super excited to want to move on. If and this, I'm just giving a preface, lady, and then we're going to jam right in.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have platforms like Kajabi, Teachable, Kartra, even Practice Better. One thing that has shifted in the last few years, which is why we're diving into this, is people are extremely busy. And people also are processing information differently than what they did 10 years ago, 8, 5. And so when you're creating your course format or what you're going to include, think about your ideal client. Does he or she need a little more hand holding and support, even if this is evergreen? Which the big difference is you're either going to do a program live or a course, or for many of you, it's going to be already pre-recorded, and that's an evergreen program. But for those of you like Garland today, and many of you who ask, how can I do this because I have a 9 to 5 job? Actually, why don't you tell, because you have such a freaking cool job. Just tell everyone what you do so they can understand your life, how busy you are, because I know everyone has the same problems.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually own a business where I partner with local farms to source organic foods. And then I do home delivery for people in my community and in my city. I'm in Tampa, Florida. So that's something that I started about 5 or 6 years ago when I became a single mom, and I wanted to raise my son at home and have him at home with me. So it's given me a lot of that flexibility, to earn an income, and also to, like, during the summer right now, my son's home with me. And so we can spend time together and I can do stuff with him. So it's given me flexibility. But also, like, I love coaching and I have a lot of friends looking for answers. So that's something that I'm trying to kind of add into the mix.
And I would say, if I'm correct, what are your hours during the day? Because I know a lot of coaches who have existing 9 to 5, they're autoimmuners or they're a caretaker. Time is not their greatest friend. But with this, what we're doing is we're blending it so that if you're trying to leave a 9 to 5 job, you can set the stage for that. And for you, we're trying to create time freedom and also flexibility where you can still coach, correct?
Right. Exactly.
Oops, sorry. My Skype. Okay. So right here, we already decided, and this is something, a format, guys, that I always talk about. Remember, it's not, people don't just opt in at the conversion for the list builder or the freebie or the challenge. They come in because you really know your ideal client. And that's why I love that you're so clear about her problems. And we could go on, probably have a list of 40, which I always suggest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always suggest do this kind of work, because this is that work that's going to allow you to always speak to your ideal client. One of the biggest problems that we do is we will buy a program and we're not clear on the pain. We're not clear on what our ideal client desires. So it's really difficult to get them to buy. So I just started even looking at list builders. And I think just in general, define the list builders that you have. A lot of people say, what would be the best list builder? The best list builder is always going to go back to your pain and your pleasure in whatever format, PDF, series. And I even said for you, I would really look at taking an hour, taking one of your recipe guides, pulling out like 5 lunches or 5 dinners, and add in 5 exercise videos so that you set the stage for attracting your ideal client. And so when you roll out the 12-month, the 12-month content, because we're going to use 12-month content, then you're going to get more numbers, which at the end of the day is the most important. If we say 47 times 10, we know it's 470. If you're doing it 57, 67, as I did just a few range numbers.
Right.
Just make sure that you're always saying that we're really looking at the math, because I know as entrepreneurs and wellness, empaths, and we often don't look at this part, and then we don't get to our goal because we haven't defined the exact tangibles that we need to do to attract our ideal client. So make sure that, you have your freebies, like 1 on sugar, 1 on weight, 1 on what I call the core aspects of your business. We know that your lady wants to lose weight. We know she wants to get off sugar. Make sure that your freebies reverse engineer, meaning if you are leading somebody to this freebie, and it makes sense for you to not go live every minute. 1, algorithms can be crazy. 2, sometimes people just aren't on Facebook as much, even in the summer. So we want to make sure that the work that you're putting on Facebook or YouTube, which is a search engine optimization machine, Pinterest, you want to make sure that there's a lot of just little pins of recipes, no sugar recipes, fitness videos, and you can host that on your blog. And then you can, of course, use that on Facebook too. So always think about how am I gonna catch the attention of my ideal client? So the biggest question that we're going over is what to offer in this, how to make it so it really gives your ideal client a win, correct?
Yes, and so it's a lot of value, but not too much that it's going to overwhelm busy people.
So I always suggest, and we're just going to do this as an example, whenever I've worked with clients or even in any membership, if you want to do it membership-wise, where you oh my goodness. Yep. Guys, I apologize. I really was talking and closed the window, and I said, I must be tired. Human mistake. Okay, so let's pick off where we were before I was trying to close a tab thinking this was going to help. Okay, so here we have what I always say, bless, and a lot of us don't do this, is I call this the brainstorming phase. So 1, I always say, write down like where to host it, whether you're seeing Teachable, whether it's Kajabi, or whether you're just going old school in Google Drive or Dropbox. Our goal, and I always write down the goal, is to make more wins less overwhelming. Many of you guys may make this mistake I have made for years, and sometimes I even make it in teaching business, which is that I give too much because we want everyone to be fixed right away. Oh, we want everyone to just not feel the pain. Problem is that change is hard. So how do we make it, one, desirable, but how do we also make it easy for that person? So Carlin, can you tell me, do you want this to be membership, or do you want to do individual classes like per month?
Well, just based on our discussion the other day, like I think the individual classes per month is going to work better because, like you said, especially for the busy person, like it's, really difficult to commit to something for 12 months. So if it's literally like individual classes and they just happen to be like once a month or whatever, then that's a little more digestible.
Well, and just this is the marketing brainstorm part. Think about even in the next, and I always give timelines. Think about in the next 48 hours, say, start asking, or even take 72 hours to even start asking these high value questions on Instagram. Do a poll in a group. Even email your newsletter list and say, hey guys, I'm putting together some really cool things, for you guys. And it's going to focus on sugar and weight and exercise, and really start to test out what people want, because you could also do it as buy one or buy three. If you wanted to you can still set this up in the delivery as a membership. That means you can have months 1 through 12. The reason I also say this is a lot of coaches, as you and I were talking about, see that their clients need a little personalization. So if we were to just say platform only, process only, theoretically, we can set this up month 1 through 12. You can charge individually for each month. Price, I would say, and everyone has different prices. Some people have clients who stay really at what we call this low cost. Some people have clients that, easily would do 97, some, 157 plus. It really depends, one, what you're giving, two, the buyer personality of our ideal client, and also the type of client we attract on disposable money. And most importantly, if your ideal client, cold, meaning they don't know who you are, or your warm audience, like Facebook, maybe that person who already knows you says, wow, she really always drops the truth bomb. She really helps me. I really love, she's fit. She always seems really positive. So maybe converting that people who are in your warm is a little, easier at a price where it's like, hey, for 97.
Right.
I would say, on average, a lot of coaches like to go in the middle range. Remember, price can always be changed, always.
Right.
And so if you did set them up, then you would, have products 1 through 12. Of course, you're only releasing number 1 first. If you wanted to do it where everyone came in and you started at month 1, the reason I say they could be independent is somebody might say, oh, well, I don't want to choose month 5, but you could still get people to consistently be coming in because they truly are independent classes.
Right.
The strategy of making and sweetening the deal per se is that the goal is that woman has consistent support. And so coming in and holding ourselves accountable at times of stress where we eat sugar.
Right.
at times where we are, overwhelmed, we tend to have higher cortisol rate, higher cortisol, and we gain that belly fat. All the things that our person is struggling with right here, we start to speak to the problems and we connect it back to the offer. And that's why I say to a lot of coaches, how you craft your offer is one aspect. How you speak and you attract your ideal client, that the message is where not only the money is at, but it is where we truly change more lives than maybe getting, 5 people. 5 people is not bad. That's 5 lives that are changed. But what if there can be consistent, like 10 or 20? So I would personally, not overwhelm yourself, but I would put them all in there, because even if you're working with a one-on-one client and that person buys, says to you, I want to come in for month 1, and you can do an upsell offer to her. We're just saying, if Jane comes in and buys month 1, the upsell to her is that you can do a 60-minute session. We know nothing gets per se fixed in a 60-minute, but you're also able to personalize that content that month, whether it's the recipes, helping her to see that batch cooking isn't a curse word. We all know what batch cooking is. We can go on Instagram, Pinterest. Where our ideal client gets stuck is in figuring out how she can actually make that doable in her real life. That's the biggest problem for most coaches. How do we make it doable, and how do we not make it overwhelming? So I always say, just map out just a few of the possibilities, because if this is at 97, you start to say, if I get 10 people, to my $47 offer, I'm going to have an upsell to this person at 97. And so then we're really making our work for us. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And so you really want to get into the math of it, because this is where we take our empath, heart-based soul, and we say, how can I really serve? And that serve has to come really, if we want to create a wellness business that can give us time, freedom, and that can take us away from feeling like all we do is hustle, all we do is left and right, put up freebies, and it's not really working. This gets into really intentional and structured and strategic, offering. So that might be 2 people that So let's get down and dirty on how to deliver. And how to deliver, that's the one aspect. And then we're going to write down, without even doing anything, what is included. Because where I see coaches feel overwhelmed is actually in this part.
Yeah, for sure.
You have a question even before we go on any further?
I don't think so. I guess just kind of back to the question, I have the platform where I am, releasing my content. What do you say? Yeah, like the Facebook group.
I was just going to get to all that.
Yeah.
So tell me what you want included. We want the Facebook group. We're using Teachable. Is that correct?
Yes, using Teachable. I know I do want to do more hands-on videos to kind of add that personalization, and just, I think, again, to add that human aspect to it. This is what I do. You can do it too.
And I know that we often feel nervous about doing that, but that is also on the psychological perspective of working in the online space. We do have to connect it as much as possible. We were really sitting face to face. And I love that you said that, because that is exactly what is going to be the game changer. So let's even say month 1 topic. I think that one is clean eating, if I'm correct. even if it was adrenals. This is all the same format. So we make sure that we have a Facebook group, Teachable. I would say if this were me and I was coming out and creating a buzz around this story, connections, past clients, social proof, all the things that we have to have. And if you don't have clients, guys, reach out to your friends. I'm starting my business. Do not overcomplicate this. Ask if you can have 5 friends give you testimonials. But what we're going to really dive into is, should this be drip? What is the best way to do this? And how do we include a Facebook group? So we know we want a Facebook group. We know that in Teachable, and tell me, in the format of Teachable, you can have it where it's video and then you can have subsections. Am I correct?
I believe so. I haven't actually put anything into a drip format yet.
It's a really cool, and this is what I would say. I think drip format is great. I think that for some people, I know that I love to come in and know what I'm going to do for that month. And so for my ideal client, it's kind of better for me to have, let's say, the main teaching video, just say the PowerPoint that you're going to do teaching. And one, to just make it, also make it easy, is you can have the main teaching video at the top, those subsections. So if you wanted to break apart the video, you could actually have that main video as more of a how to get started, which means they get redirected to their download page. You can have each of these as if it's a pre-recorded course. And the reason that I say that, and hear me out, is say you broke this up into 4 weeks. Video 1. This is also called drip, but I think a lot of coaches get just overwhelmed in, should I do this before we even lay out what would be really great if that person came? How would they get the win? So you can do a video, 7 minutes, 8 minutes. Why I always say, stop getting overwhelmed for all of us. We make a choice. Am I pre-recording using ScreenFlow, Camtasia, if I have a WP, anything but a Mac, or I'm using loom.com, as I said to you, on Chrome to shoot videos, exercise, quick videos, or Zoom. That's really a personal opinion, just like, do you like J brand or another another brand of jeans? So video 1, I always like for them to feel not overwhelmed, and I delivered my materials in Dropbox. Those videos could also be in their welcome emails. So the same videos, because you want to train people. And most importantly, we don't know where your ideal client is, how she or he processes. So the same video that is in the back of Teachable can also be the same video that in her welcome, so that you're really using the information in different places, hence lessening the questions. Where do I find this? What do I do? So that there's cohesiveness. You can have video 1 that is really about, we know it's 4 weeks. Video 1 can even be like, how to get started. Or you can do this in an intro. Again, 8 minutes. That's like, download your recipes. Join the forum. That forum link you can have right in the welcome email. And also have it in Teachable. If you are making this evergreen, which is what we said, you're going to do this live, and then it's going to turn into a product on your shop. Sometimes you just want to keep it in Teachable so you don't have to change in so many places, but it is great to explain it somewhere. Like, hey, download these materials, join the forum, fill out this Google form or this Jot form with any questions, just making it easy for somebody to feel relaxed.
Right.
And then if there's download your recipes, and then if there's call them key basics. For me, it was probiotic, skin brush, journal. I had kind of my basics, Epsom salts that I had all of the self-care that I felt was really essential for the crazy mom like me.
Yeah.
So that's why I always did a welcome video. We could even call this welcome video, because what we're doing here is we're brainstorming to lessen the questions back and forth.
Right.
If you wanted to make it, and the drip is just that they have to complete this section, which in Teachable, it's super easy. Complete this, go to the next. That's dripping.
Okay, so with that model, basically that would be like buying the 12 months at once.
No, let me say this clearly, and this is where everyone gets really confused, is that with this model, look at that. If we really play this out without even, and let me just include this.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying here, but I guess my question is, if I'm using the drip on Teachable, then that basically would be like somebody having the 12 months at once, as opposed to making each month like an individual lesson.
Well, no, this is exactly what I'm saying here is we're really only focusing on month one.
Oh, so by week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 kind of thing.
But this is what I want you to think, right? Because you're breaking the only thing human beings need, and we ask it in business all the time, is, can you make this really easy and simple for me to do?
Right.
So we are actually thinking not just selling one at a time, but we're also thinking of a 12-month build out.
Right.
Because after you do this live, this can actually be a evergreen product, because those videos are done. And so week 1 video, the welcome video, and then you go into video 1, which is week 1. Video 2 is really week 2.
Okay.
Great. And some people, and these are just, options. Some people feel that they have to have these extensive videos. You don't. You can take a welcome video, and then you can do a pre-recorded teaching off the PowerPoint. And that could be here. You could break these up into the little steps that you're going to dive in over the month, so that she gets a short video. You give her the homework. She has her free trainings, or maybe you give her right here at the top, she gets like 7 trainings, that she can do at her home, and that she can also do, that you can hold accountable, because you're adding that other aspect. So she gets week 1 video, she gets week 1 materials. And she would, of course, once she's buying, this woman definitely wants the recipe guide. You could give her, if you wanted, I always did. I always gave the content, but then I broke it down into steps like this.
Right.
So imagine yourself, you're buying, you come in, you get a welcome video right away of you all excited, amped up. And then she gets redirected to the Teachable download, where there is her welcome video and even the overview of how the month is going to play out. She has a link where she can join your Facebook group. She knows that in the Facebook group, that is, the bonus for being there live.
Right.
Because when she buys the product individually, evergreen, you're not going to have those lives in there or you're not going to have the Facebook group part. If you did want to, and you don't have time for one-on-one, option one is they buy that month, whatever you're charging, they buy that month, they get the materials, and they can, whether you want to do drip or whether they get all the materials at once, the most important is to just say, break it down. Week one, this is what we're doing. Right. This is our big main focus.
Right.
Two, this is our big main focus. I do think that drip can be nice for people because it forces them to stay and not go forward
and get overwhelmed.
But at the same time, in the format that really is an essential format these days, we are actually doing all teaching. Meaning, if that woman lands on video 1 page for week 1, she's going to see the video there at the top. She's going to then see the individual little clicks, and it's going to say, self-care for week 1. Make sure that you buy, or make sure that you are doing Epsom salt bath, skin brushing, and maybe on that little click down page, there's a little video for you of, hey guys, if I can skin brush and I'm a single mom taking care of this little amazing boy and loving him up, this is how I keep it so crazy simple.
Right.
It's not a lot. Like if I were to add up the time, if you carved out a 1 hour block and shot 10-minute videos, 8 minutes, you could have 4 videos all done for month 1. Then the next 1 hour block, you're really clear on, okay, so I shot all those videos. I now know, week 1, we're talking about clean eating habits and exercise. Even if the content, you're still giving the same content, you're adding the connection part and the girl, if I can do this, you can do this in the videos. And that's where I see people do the opposite. So whether it's drip or not drip, I really tell coaches all the time, don't get as overwhelmed in that. Make sure that you're saying step 1, this week's focus.
Right.
Pull from the content and lesson, should it be this? Because that's where we don't know what it should be until we've really gone through it.
Right.
You are overwhelmed in, I do drip, put it there. As long as you have each week on individual pages, it's extremely easy,
right?
Self-paced and or to go live, as long as you're saying, guys, this week's focus, even if you're bringing in other content that you have from our other programs, that could be, how do you skin brush? That could be other handouts. What are my favorite sugar swaps? And where we get to really have people have wins is because we are actually connecting with them on a video, bringing them into our home. You could even have a video where you're making snacks with your child. How do we lessen the overwhelm and not eat sugar? That is where people really feel like they can do it. It's not to say that programs don't work, but it's really in the direction because we took the time to format and say what's included.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense, because that's something that I haven't really done in the past, is like really broken it down into like step by step so that it's more digestible for the client.
And the thing, one of my favorite lines I've always said is test before you invest. That just means before you invest all this time and you're like, does it need to be drip? Does it need to be this? I've done tons of monthly master classes like this or group coaching where there was a lot of content, but there was clear direction where to start. And I think that actually is the bigger problem.
Right.
First, what platform? Because in the days, and many people who can't afford platforms right now or want to keep it simple, if you built this out first in Google Drive, just even broke down what is in week 1, what's our big focus that week, and really stepped back even from the content and said, okay, my woman has tons of problems not saying no to sugar.
Right.
I'm going to do a low video on sugar. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to talk about metabolism boosting, foods, or I'm going to talk about sugar swaps and really make that what because your ideal client. Where does she come up against a roadblock in her day? The second week, you could even talk about stress eating.
Right.
And even though the 12-month content, I think that month one is clean eating.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the video. This is a key word.
Right.
Personalizing and speaking.
Connecting with the client.
Versus what I see many do is we spend all this time in the back platform.
Mm-hmm.
Spend all this time overwhelming. Should I do this? Should I do that? And then we don't do what our ideal client needs to hear from us. Like, hey guys, maybe you should check with your doctor. I know that I dealt with blood sugar imbalances, hypoglycemic, and then all of a sudden my sugars were high. You're not diagnosing, you're saying, I found that I needed to take a sugar balance like Josh Axe talks about.
Right.
And really help her where she's stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think as coaches, it is the program, it is the content, that's the educational part. That's giving her structure.
Mm-hmm.
Where she falls short all the time is that, but that's not always real life. We say, oh my God, there's no way I can do that. There's no way I can get off my sweet and low. But we're like, hey, okay, let me show you
step by step.
Let me show you stevia. Let me show you monk fruit. Let me show you Lakanto, whatever each person's thing is. And then she goes, oh my God, I've always heard this monk fruit. I've seen it in the grocery store. And so in the video, you're speaking to her day.
Mm-hmm.
In another video, the third could be, as you said, it's a lot of the mindset. It's, when we feel really stressed, what do we do before we reach for the food? How do we identify with what we're craving? Are we emotionally craving it? Physically, spiritually? Are we martyring through life? Are we not holding boundaries? That's all of what I call that the coaching.
Right. Yeah.
And does that make sense? So if you put yourself in your ideal client shoes, and I always close my eyes and say, if I were to buy this, what is the customer experience?
Mm-hmm.
She lands on Teachable. It's got probably 6 sections. Download your materials, join the group, before we embark on this awesome, month where you have a Facebook group, and support and a kickoff call on X date.
Right.
Call on X date. Or maybe you choose to do those pre-recorded and to do, 4 30-minute calls a week to check in, to hold accountability. There are so many ways to lessen the overwhelm of even marketing it, because once you know what's included and you're really thinking about her and not on what platform, we could even build this in the Facebook unit section.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, that's how I always say there's so many ways without even getting overwhelmed on the delivery. Map it out week by week and say, if I were not me, and that's why we ask friends to test it out.
Yeah.
Where we beta test and we say, I'm looking for 5 people to go through this and tell me if this was easy for you. Easy to find the foods, easy to get off gluten, easy to stop eating the junk. And they'll say, oh yeah, I didn't know you did the welcome video and it was great, but I wasn't clear on, should I download the recipes? What should I do? And then we actually change the delivery based on our ideal client and their love language. And when I say that, it's some people never get overwhelmed. Some people are like you and I, they're doers,
self-starters.
Exactly.
A lot of people are not.
Most of our ideal clients, they are parts of us, but they most often, if we work together, I'm like, oh yeah, she's my girl. She's a doer. But most of our clients are just like coaches who are overwhelmed in their business.
Right.
So the moment that they feel like they don't know where to go, they get overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
So the more that, even if something's a 3-minute video, that 3-minute pre-recorded video seriously could save you an hour back and forth of somebody
Yeah.
feeling overwhelmed. And of course, we're going to text. We're going to then, try to balance the overwhelm because
Mm-hmm.
we want her to have a win. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That gives me a lot of clarity.
Yeah, because that also allows us to go, WTF?
Yeah, exactly.
The way, and the reason that I always, when I'm creating the Done For You content, or when I was creating, the content for Rachel's Wellness, I always thought about the steps versus where I was delivering it, because I was collaborating with gyms, all these different places, and each one of them had different styles of people. So I would build it out in Dropbox first, or on Google Drive, see what I wanted to include, see what's necessary, start asking the questions now. Let's say you're releasing this after July 4th. Start asking the questions. What are the problems you guys have when you do self-paced courses? Because I'm delivering something so different and I want your opinion.
Yep.
That already sets,
that's a great question.
That's the high mileage question. So I'll give you another few. You can say, guys, a lot of my clients come to me and say, I did Weight Watchers. I bought this book, from Mark Hyman. I bought this book from, whomever it is. I did the diet that I Googled the other day. Never works. And what you're saying to her then is, whether it's on a strategy call, whether it's a poll in a group, it's all the same verbiage. Tell me what didn't work and why. Why didn't Weight Watchers work for you? Why did this? And you'll start to hear her problem in her own words.
Yeah.
And when you release this, you might say, oh my God, they all want juicing. Let's just say hypothetically. And then putting handouts on top juices into the content, all of a sudden sweetens the deal, gives that person exactly what she's looking for, because the goal is, in a world of so much information, why then are people getting stuck?
Right.
They're getting stuck. And then you really start to craft that around her. And that was how I did my own programs. I just thought, wow, my ideal client is struggling in these. I made those handouts. I pulled content even from other programs.
Right.
And then it's not so much about, should it be drip? Should it be evergreen? But it's really, how does, for the person that you attract, you're one type of avatar that's like a you, versus one that always is like parts of you, but she's like, I'm so overwhelmed. What? I'm, no matter what I'm doing, 10 o'clock hits and I find myself like eating. I eat. What I would always hear is, I don't understand, Rachel. I'm eating and then right away I'm craving sugar. And then we start getting into really their problems.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's great.
So I would, in conclusion, because I know you're going to go, I would map it out first on a Google Drive. Stop. Don't overthink about, is it drip? Is it this? Think more about, what is her style of learning, and how can she get to her wins? And that's the part that we're not doing. We're so worried about the Facebook ad. Is it drip? Is it evergreen? Because we are fed these terms in marketing. But it's really about you saying, I know
that win. How do I coach them to the win?
And even if you do have existing clients, which I know you do, reach out to 5 of them.
Yeah.
Say, will you hop on, Zoom with me for 15 minutes, ask a few questions and say, I'm putting this together. I'd really love your feedback, because I came to help women. My purpose is to help women get the heck off sugar, stop this diet mentality, like really then creating then speaking your brand message, which is really our why, is so clear.
Okay.
Because
Yep.
you're not worrying about the platform. You're really staying in what serves this woman the best.
Yeah. I love that. That's great.
So whiteboard
Okay.
it, or, put out that format and then come back into, the free group or our other group and say, here's the format. And then just have the courage to go with it, because we don't ever know how it's going to be unless we test it with a few of our current clients or brand new people, or we go through it and say, at the end of the day, I know I'm in service. There's not a perfection thing. Hashtag screw perfection. And let's change the damn world.
Yep. All righty. Sounds great.
Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Much clearer. Yep.
Less stressing, more
Yes.
more intentional action, because you know what she needs. All right, go do your thing.
All right. Thanks.
Amazing to have you.
Yeah. Appreciate it, lady.
Just circle back.
I will.
You know all of this. It's just really thinking about it. You know what I mean?
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Bye, lady.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye, honey.
Bye.
All right, guys. Let me just close this out by saying, if you're a brand new coach, this applies to. If you're a coach who is in what I call the up-leveling business stage, this applies to you. This is what I did always for my business. Some of us do it naturally. Some of us naturally have an easier time crafting structure. But at the end of the day, I will say this. 10 years ago, when I built my business, 9, 8, 7, 6, even 5 years ago, we didn't have all of these platforms. And so I really want you to just sit there and always say to yourself, if I think as a wellness entrepreneur, that's number one. Not if, I will, let's NLP it. I will think like a wellness entrepreneur. Then step 2, I will define the problems. What is she struggling with? And the pleasure. What does she really want? And it may just be like weight loss, but it's even further than that. Why does she want to have weight loss? What will she lose if she doesn't lose that weight? How's it affecting her intimacy, her relationships, her confidence at work, her confidence with her, family, her ability to play? Play out what she will lose if she doesn't make this change. What will she lose if she doesn't get off sugar? How's it making her feel? That's the messaging part. That's where we get extremely clear on the promise of our program, the promise of the workshop, the promise of the freebie. And that's why you will often hear me say in groups, I can build a perfect funnel, but this funnel, the perfect funnel, as Russell Brunson says, really depends on the buyer habits of your ideal client, how they process information, the level of issues that your client has, or their own self-confidence. It doesn't mean that we don't do it. It just means that we're aware of those, because we have to be honest with ourselves when we've put something together and maybe it's not entirely working. And instead of abandoning and trashing that whole 1-month course or the product, we then go back and say, where did I maybe not lead them the best? Did I give them too much information? And sometimes we don't know who our ideal client is until we do it and we get people to either test our program. So the third part is then always saying, okay, well, I've really sat and thought about those, giving yourself a scheduled deadline of time. I gave myself 48 hours to test on Facebook, and ask questions like, do you do better in a self-paced course, or do you do better in a self-paced course where we have a Facebook group? For some of you that maybe hates Facebook groups, you can also use many other ways of communicating, such as Slack. There's also many different platforms that have forums built in, but for the coach who sits in perfection, or the brand new coach that is not making money, or for any of you that maybe have been on the sideline for a long time, and every time you've tried to start your business, you feel extremely overwhelmed. Keep it simple. You can do the exact same structure in a Facebook group with unit section. And I really encourage you to go look at YouTube videos on a unit section and how to build it. I think in my free group, I even have a video on that, meaning how do you use Facebook units to build like a mock membership and to also test it out. There are so many different platforms, guys. Please stay focused on your why. Your why was to coach. Your why was to change the world. It is still your why. It's not to be messing with platforms. Platforms make it easier, but I will say, I see a lot of people using Practice Better. I also see a lot of people who don't have any platform, and you're delivering in your support emails with a video. It doesn't have to be so difficult for you that you lose your passion and your energy and your excitement to change the world, and then you feel exhausted. So please, under this video, wherever you're seeing this, post underneath, what are your biggest problems that you're having in starting your business? Also, be honest with yourself on your bandwidth. If you're in a 9-to-5 and you have an autoimmune, it may not be best to invest a lot of time in the platform. Probably would be best to invest the time right now in the structure, the format, as you saw I did, and defining what those videos, and do more pre-marketing, and maybe even gain people on the phone. A lot of you convert from, a freebie or a challenge or a webinar or workshop, or maybe you haven't found your best converting platform. And that's just a bigger issue. And guess what, guys? Hate to break the news. That comes with time. There isn't this one perfect strategy that anyone teaches. You're going to have to see how your client converts the best with you. Is it in a DM? Is it in a PM? I call this the no opt-in approach. Is it just in conversation? Do you close better? And I hear a lot of coaches say this, when you're talking face-to-face. Use Zoom, use Skype. It doesn't have to be difficult. A lot of us spend so much time on the platform. Be honest, drop a hashtag UGG platform if this is you. And we don't spend enough time connecting with people. And so please know, after this, it is often in this aspect of the brainstorming, the planning, and the marinating on the best experience of your client, so that then you're clear when you do go put it in the platform, so that takes you 1 hour because you've done the videos, you've done the process, you're really clear on how amazing this program is. You're excited, you're pumped, you've been trying the recipes, you know that this is going to serve. And so your confidence rises instead of the overwhelm of the platform. Your confidence rises because maybe you keep it simple. You do this on Eventbrite or on Teachable. You just have, you, in the times where you may feel struggling, let go, because your ideal client is not worried whether it's a drip or whether it's getting the content all at once. She or he is most worried about not ending this insanity and this vicious cycle that is making he or she depressed, overwhelmed, adding weight, not being able to play with their children, not having the confidence to show up at work in times of stress. That's where she or he is worried. And that affects every aspect, their marriage, their relationships, their work, their confidence in every area. Because if there's not confidence, then it's really hard to always choose the highest vibrational food, or to do self-care, or to do habits. I know for myself personally, and then I will close with this, in a world of mass information, in a world where you can download anything from Dr. Oz, Alejandro Younger, all the people that we know in a world where the Today Show and the doctor's panel are talking about books to get. What is the biggest problem? We don't know how to handle our stress and overwhelm in life. We get easily caught up, and so our self-care habits go lower on the totem pole because life or kids or stress or parents or all the things that we worry about in life start creating different slots on that totem pole. It's not that people can't make change, or it's not that they're not committed. It's that it's the same work of Tony Robbins. They haven't identified what they will lose if they don't make this change. And human habit and human behavior is that most people take 10 steps forward and 3 steps back. And so it's not always you and your offerings. It's our inability, because we are so passionate and we are so overwhelmed, to not step back and say, what are the roadblocks my ideal clients having? Oh, that's another video instead of redoing an entire program. It's just adding the essential parts. So remember, your ideal client needs you to understand her problem or his problem. Your ideal client needs you to give a voice to the very issues that she says to herself, just like feels like everything is going wrong. Your ideal client is desperately needing for you to address her concerns emotionally, physically, spiritually, and even metaphysically. Even from this example with Carlin, we know it's really busy women, really busy moms. So what is her problem? Why does she feel overwhelmed right now? You don't have to then, change the program and go back. You have to, it's not that gets the conversion. She identifies with you in the topics you're talking about. She identifies with your stories that you're sharing, whatever social media platform it is. And please, guys, get comfortable with video, because that's how the industry has changed significantly in the last 3 to 4 years. You have to connect with your ideal client in a sea of everyone saying the same. Because even though you do feel that your content is different, it does require us to show up and talk about these areas. And so if you're not doing that, or you've been working with a business coach on all the systems and the platforms, or you're in a course and you're not getting clients because maybe you're learning about advanced strategies that always do work and crush it when you know your ideal client, just step back. Step back and say, what does he or she need to hear from me right now to even come in to my funnel? It's not always the workshop and the webinar. That's where we're leading them at the top of the funnel. That's the list building. But before that is all of the trust building. And it's everything that we talked about today. And that is why I know I'm different than just a lot of, coaches, because this is really, it is niche, but this is when we step into the shoes. That's the empathy. That's the listening. That's the asking questions. That's the psychology of this amazing person who is struggling in this life where she really has about 40 different issues, because that is what most of us in this world of mystery illness, constant education or information or misinformation that we are fed, the overwhelm and not knowing who to trust, that's the key word, the trust factor. So then we spend a lot of energy, a lot of time. We sacrifice time with family. We sacrifice our time. Many of you are working at night, or it's not your side hustle. You want this to be your main business. And then our efforts don't equal conversion because we haven't taken enough time to work on this part. How is she going to best digest this information? Is my ideal client right now coming to challenges? Or is she a really busy mom like me that does not have time? Does she want it to be pre-recorded with the live aspect? What is going to give her the best win? What's also going to make her feel and know that she is supported? And then we think about all the awareness, the teachings or the videos, or we reverse engineer from the offer, what we're about, and we start attacking the problem. The problem, the pain point equals a freebie or a handout or an audio or a video series, because we start testing it. We start actually testing instead of saying things like, what is the best funnel? Which there's about 100 different ways, all with just one. Carlin's buying the 12-month content at yourhealthcoachbiz.com. It's the same thing that could be used for the mindset makeover, for the 4-month reboot, for any program. Any program can be extended and broken down. And so we often don't marinate in that part. We go right into the doing, not the editing, right into the platforms. So platforms are awesome. But most importantly, we have to really think, what do we need to talk about to attract our ideal client and many others, so that we do change this world? And then for those of you who do have what I call sensitive topics, emotional eating, anorexia, bulimia, fertility, pregnancy, some autoimmune stuff, life coaching, trauma, PTSD, really be honest with yourself. If you have limited time, as most of us start our business that way, as solo entrepreneurs with not a lot of money, how can you serve your ideal client in a format like this, membership or group or self-paced course, and give her also that one-on-one support? Maybe everyone that comes gets a 30-minute session with you in the beginning, and you structure those over your week and be really smart about the days that you're seeing people, so you don't get drained, so that you don't fall into the trap that I did many years ago, where I didn't create the structure. So I had to hustle a lot, show up and kind of, I should have been more structured in that clarity, but I only was able to build that in also seeing what I should have done. And so I really hope that after this training, this call, that you see how easy it can be. And I highly encourage you to go to rachelafeldman.com/podcast and look at many of the coaches, JJ, Amy Ramsey, a weight loss and fitness coach, Christine Hansen, many of the coaches that have shared what works for them, and you will see it's all completely different. Tap into your intuition. Step back from the overwhelm of the platform. That's not what coaching is about. And think more as the coach, which we all are. And so with that being said, guys, if you have any questions, please reach out to us about the programs at yourhealthcoachbiz.com. If you watch this and you want to sit with your business coach or anybody, or even your significant other, and say, help me format this, or carve out the time to do it yourself. Take an hour, then marinate for that time, ask those questions, and then refine and go into action. Don't doubt, have faith. That's a big part of what we teach, to have faith in the process. And that if I can do it, you can do it. If we show that it's possible and we make it easy to do it, we will never fail our client. We will only have to go in and tweak, pivot, and just rearrange our offers or even our freebies to speak the love language of our ideal client and how they process information. Guys, my name is Rachel Feldman. I was a health coach. I totally get it. I was in your shoes, and I didn't build online first. I used I really built the trust first, and this is what I know works. I really connected with people and got clear on what my ideal client was struggling with. And any of you can do that. You hear the words beta testing, doing a survey, asking your people, testing it out. And we can't test in theory. We actually need to test. And that's why, the content is so awesome, because it allows you to connect more instead of creating. So for those of you who came in late, I will see you guys later. I hope you're having a beautiful one and taking care of yourself. In this time, I know that I have had to 10x my self-care, my breathing, my different ways of supporting myself, because in times that we get stressed, imagine how stressed our ideal client is. So, guys, I will talk to you soon. Have a beautiful one. Bye, guys.